What is up, Ravens Flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my faithful compadre, Glenn Martin, and DK, as always, in the background doing his thing. We are excited to answer a simple question tonight. Glenn, we are excited to talk about who the NFL has really figured out. But before we get into that, if you're new to the show, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We keep you up to date on all your Ravens news with instant reactions, pre-games. We bring guests on from the opposing team's media, all other things Ravens. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you're up to date on the videos, and then give us a like if you enjoy the videos. Also, comment below, all the above. But Glenn, this is how I wanna go about this. I want to start by prefacing all of our comments based on the fact that these comments they originate from Jeremy Fowler, right? Jeremy Fowler of ESPN said that there are multiple GMs that feel as though this year is the year that they will figure out Lamar Jackson. So before we talk about who's been figured out, what were your initial thoughts? Did you laugh at this as hard as I did?
Oh, I mean, of course. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. First of all, let's just pretend that he's right in the sense that coaches know how to scheme against Lamar Jackson. Let's pretend that that's right, which I disagree with that. But even if we've seen it plenty of times, coaches have schemed the Ravens up well. Had a guy in perfect position to make the play on Lamar Jackson. And what does he do? He makes them look absolutely silly. We saw it again yesterday in the Chargers game. 2nd and 20. He dropped a guy at the line of scrimmage. The guy never touched him. He was squared up and simply left him laying on the turf as he ran by him to gain yards. So, no, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so, however, there are a lot of people who took a lot of stock and put a lot of stock, into these comments. So what I started thinking and what I'm now proposing, and I might be alone on this one, and based on their start as a team, is that not only has the NFL not figured out Lamar Jackson, but maybe, just maybe, the focus of the figuring out should be turned to number 15 in red out in Kansas City at Patrick Mahomes. Now, I know that we're going to get into the stats of both of these guys, and a lot of this is based on my own opinion, what I see on the film, what I see on game day. The stats, of course, tell a story. What you see on game day tells another. But I just want to say one thing for all the Kansas City fans that will inevitably see this. I'm not a Patrick Mahomes fan. Never really have been. Never really plan on being a Patrick Mahomes fan. However, I'm not stupid enough to say that he is not, to say something like he's not great or he's not special, he's not generational. But I will not bow down at the altar of Patrick Mahomes and saying that he is the only special quarterback out there and he stands in a group that is one of one. I do not believe that. I think in his uniqueness and his talent and his game impact ability, Lamar Jackson meets him. It's one for one. It looks different, but I think their impact on the game is just as high from one another, or just as impactful as one another. So I just want to say this, Glenn, and I'll stop commandeering the conversation here. Patrick Mahomes, last 14 starts, 13 interceptions, trending in the wrong direction. Right now, he is tied for second in the NFL interceptions this year with 8. Trending in the wrong direction. So if you look at the trends of the two, not looking too good.
And I think what when you mentioned the 8 interceptions, let me just remind people the only person he's behind is Kyle Wilson Zach Wilson from the New York Jets, who are just an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah, I mean he's a bust anyway.
And he's a rookie. So he's got the worst surrounding cast. Yeah, exactly. According to Jimmy, he's a bust already. But they're in the worst. The only player that has more interceptions this year than Pat Mahomes is a rookie quarterback playing on, I think we can all agree, is the worst franchise in the NFL, at least has been for the last decade. So That's telling. I mean, I don't think you can just overlook that. Turnovers are becoming a problem for Pat Mahomes, no doubt about it. And people can tell me, well, yesterday he had one that bounced off Tyreek Hill. I get it. You know, you'll have those. Certainly.
But so does everyone
Every
else.
quarterback has those. Exactly. You know, just yesterday, in fact, Lamar Jackson had one bounce off of number 1 overall pick Rashad Bateman's hands, and that was one of his interceptions. And so the ball hit him dead in the chest. And so we understand that. So we're not going to act crazy here. But at the same time, you're not even talking fumbles. You know, if you add fumbles into the mix, it's becoming a turnover issue in Kansas City. And Pat Mahomes admitted himself that it's becoming a bit of an issue. But I think what we want to focus on is the Lamar Jackson portion of this. At least I do. And Lamar Jackson, you know, he's 9th overall in passing yards, unless I missed something. And he's 7th in rushing yards. So, I mean, the fact that you're top 10 in both categories in which you advance the ball down the field is just so mind-blowingly incredible. Like, I mean, this guy does it at every single way you can, and he does it at a high level. And on top of that, he's led a team to a 5-1 record, despite leading the league in players on the IR. The Ravens have 16 players on the IR, and this isn't like it's a handful of, you know, it's 16 guys that are backups or back end of the roster guys. You're talking key contributors, and in most cases, very highly paid key contributors.
The entire running back room, literally, no hyperbole here. The entire running back room,
all 3 starting running backs gone. Your left tackle, who's an all-pro, gone, which we'll get into more in a different video about what my thoughts are on him moving forward and where this could be headed. Marcus Peters, your all-pro cornerback, one of the highest-paid players, gone. I mean, there's just guys everywhere around the team that are gone. Every other team in this situation would go in the dumps. They'd be competing for, let's see what kind of draft pick we could get. But instead, Lamar Jackson took this team that's been depleted by injury, and he's carried them to a 5-1 record, number 1 in the AFC conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Continuing to focus on Lamar Jackson, Glenn, and I want to give you credit here because this is a screenshot you sent me, which I think is incredible. And part of the reason why we're focusing on Lamar Jackson is because, and this is my problem as far as the figuring out thing. Pat Mahomes jumps on the scene, and it's all great. Right? Everything's perfect. He's the golden boy. He's the heir to Tom Brady. He's this, that, and the other. And it's always been that since day one. And let me tell you what, as a fan of the Baltimore Ravens, that's like, it's hard to hear. But as a fan of Lamar Jackson, when he came on the scene and nothing but naysayers wanting to be right about their take, and every single narrative popping up about this and that, and he can't push it downfield. He's a running back. Just this week, a Cincinnati Bengals linebacker said he's a running back playing quarterback. So what I'm trying to say is that it is extremely frustrating for me that everything with Pat is golden and perfect. Everything with Lamar is flawed and wrong. So I love this screenshot here. DK, I know he's going to put this up on the screen because it is literally Lamar Jackson proving Jeremy Fowler, all these GMs, Bob Polian, who might be in a nursing home by now, and
Bill Polian.
What'd you say?
Bill Polian.
See, I don't even. Anyway, so week 2, I mean, this was incredible, right? The clutch 4th down to beat Mahomes, but the fact, bigger than that, the narrative of beating the Chiefs, right? Being his kryptonite. That's number 1. Number 2 was the game-winning drive in 64 seconds. That was another incredible one. Week 3 took out a 3-0 team when you know everyone was riding high. You know, obviously Fangio was feeling good about Denver. Week 4, and this was incredible. 442 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, overtime comeback. What did people say about Lamar, Glenn? He can't do it from behind, right?
Yep.
He can't come back and win in the 4th quarter. He can't push the ball downfield. He can't run an offense with tempo. And then, of course, week 6, when everyone is riding high with the Los Angeles Chargers and Herbert is, you know, taking over the AFC West and this and the other, Lamar says, hold on a second. He starts whistling Farmer in the Dell, shows up at the bank, blows out the Chargers. You know, I mean, absolutely, you know, makes them look ridiculous, winning as quarterback before the age of 25. They're so wrong about Lamar Jackson that it is laughable at this point, Glenn. What else is there to say?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to continue to silence the critics. I mean, I just can't wait to see what they come up with next, because the haters will hate, right? Isn't that the saying? Haters going to hate. They're going to find a way to criticize him, right? I mean, they're going to find a way to pick apart his game and say, well, now he can't do this until he does that. And Stephen A. Smith even started it, because he was getting taken to task a little bit by Keyshawn Johnson, was just grilling him. And the only thing he could say was, well, now I got to see it in the playoffs. It's just they keep moving the goalposts, as we say.
And backtracking.
It's always something different. My only hope is that we can that Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, can continue this run they're on, because I got to imagine if they end up going to the Super Bowl and winning it, then they got to silence him then, right? I mean, or will they still have something to say about his game and find a reason to hate on him?
I think finally, if Lamar Jackson gets a Super Bowl, I think finally people will realize it is a futile and unintelligent path to continue down. I mean, it's just dumb. It's a dumb take. But I also want to say this. Don't you think? So this is the other thing that's frustrating to me. I think there's a little bit of, like, Patrick Mahomes is an incredible talent. I'm going to bring him up again because I have to. Patrick Mahomes is an incredible talent, but don't you think he did what an incredible talent is supposed to do in that system? Like, he got it set up perfectly for him, handed to him on a silver platter, as far as having the right coach, the right team, the right scheme, he's got probably the best receiving tight end in the league. He's got the fastest wide receiver I've ever seen in my life. He's got one of the best play. Yeah, he's got the best one of the best play callers of all time. I think anyone that argues against that, it just doesn't like Andy Reid. He's had it handed to him, and he did what he was supposed to do. So credit for him for doing it. But it's also tough to say that other great quarterbacks wouldn't have done the same thing. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if he's more special than Lamar Jackson. I think that Lamar Jackson is just as special, and I think putting them in two separate categories is dumb.
And let me tell you, let me just kind of bolster your point a little bit. Just so you guys know, Lamar Jackson has 392 rushing yards on the season. He has 4 more rushing yards than Najee Harris, who was the first running back taken in this draft and was supposed to be the next Lev Bell, despite having 40 less attempts. He has more rushing yards than Aaron Jones, who got paid very handsomely to be in the backfield with Aaron Rodgers, despite the fact that, again, he has less attempts, 20 less attempts to be exact. He has more rushing yards than Alvin Kamara. I think everybody's heard of that guy. Despite the fact he has 30 less attempts, he still has 20 more yards. Dalvin Cook, is he good, Jimbo? He was second in the league last year in rushing yards. Yep. Lamar Jackson's got he's got about 30 some more yards than him on 20 less carries. Tony Pollard, Kareem Hunt, Antonio Gibson, Austin Eckler, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, the list goes on and on. He has more rushing yards than all those guys and has way less attempts than all of those guys. And I think if he had equal attempts to anyone on this list, I think we know what would happen. He'd have more yards than all of them. And then you can say the same. You could go down the list in passing yards. I mean, Carson Wentz, Big Ben, Kyler Murray's barely got him, and he's got far more passing attempts. I mean,
Lamar is currently 19th in passing attempts. Right.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is good, right?
He's all right.
Good. He's got less. Lamar Jackson's got more passing yards than Aaron Rodgers. Okay, I mean, so you got to start looking, a little bit more into and again, Aaron Rodgers, more attempts. So the fact that he's got more passing yards than Big Ben, Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts. I mean, you can go down the list. Matt Ryan, Josh Allen. You go down the list. He's got more passing yards than Josh Allen. He's got more than A-Rod. And while still out rushing Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, and the list goes on, it should be mind-blowing to all fans.
So right. So exactly what you're saying is this, Glenn. You don't figure a guy out like that. You don't say, oh, we're going to figure that. It does not happen. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And people will probably get in our comments and say, oh, what about the playoffs? This, that, and the other. That's fair, except for the fact that everyone in the playoffs, for the most part, are incredible teams. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson has done the most with the least in NFL history that I've ever seen. Ever. He's done the most with the least, and I don't think it's close.
Now, I don't agree with Bart Scott's point about Marquise Brown, but the point he was making,
Right.
I understand what he was saying. He's saying essentially what you're saying, that Lamar Jackson is surrounded with the least talented offensive cast around him when you compare him to his peers. And it's just an absolute truth. And we love our Ravens. We're Ravens fans. We're diehards. And we understand that we see more value in a lot of these guys than the national and, fans of other teams do. But at the same time, it's hard to argue with some of his points. When you look around the league and look at the weapons, all these young guys. I mean, look at Kyler Murray. They want to talk
insane.
about. They want to compare him to Lamar Jackson. Kyler Murray went to first of all a head coach who is known for. I mean, he came from college and being a guy that aired the ball out every other play, and it's just his head coach was designed perfectly for him. He's got maybe the best receiver in all of football in DeAndre Hopkins. He's got A.J. Green. He's got Christian Kirk. He's got Zach Ertz. Who's
the short guy that they got in the draft this year?
Yeah, Rondell Moore, who's an absolute burner.
Yeah.
I mean, the list just goes on. He had Larry Fitz for how many years? So, I mean, you go around the league and you start looking at the weapons, and it's hard to argue that he doesn't have the worst group, even if you want to put Marquise up in these, if you want to elevate Marquise Brown into the upper echelon, okay.
And even Mark Andrews.
And Mark Andrews as well. We love Mark Andrews. I think he's the fourth best tight end. Or actually, you know what? I think I might have to give him 3 because Kittle's been a bit of a disappointment. I know that, he's had injuries. His quarterbacks have had injuries, but I'm about ready to put him above Kittle from what I've seen this year. So to me, it's only Waller and Kelsey that you put above him.
Especially as of late. Especially the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about injuries. They lost their whole running back room, and somehow we're still getting it done. I mean, last week,
all-pro left tackle gone. I mean, the list goes, like you said, 16, 17 deep at this point. Yeah. I think it's insane that there's a narrative that exists this way. But I also think, and I'm going to be the only one that goes out on a limb here, Glenn. But I think that you will see a regression in Patrick Mahomes before you see a regression in Lamar Jackson. I think that Lamar Jackson will trend the right way and continue to do so till he hits his summit. And I think that we've seen the summit when it comes to Pat Mahomes. So when you're talking about who you're figuring out, I don't think there's a way you figure out Lamar Jackson. You try and mitigate his impact. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how you mitigate the impact of a grenade. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, they said when he got that offensive line in the offseason, right, he was going to be
just lighting it up on fire and everything.
And now,
else, right?
Meanwhile, 4 or 5 games in, they're grabbing Josh Gordon off the suspension list because they say they don't have enough weapons for the guy, despite the fact that Tyreek Hill's still healthy and playing, and so is Travis Kelce.
Right.
And they still got McCole Harbin. They still got Byron Pringle. They still got, Clyde Edwards-Helaire just got hurt, 2 weeks ago, but Williams looks even better, honestly, in his first game. He looked even better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked all year.
And it's a footnote, right? Like, that's the frustrating thing for me is that in the reporting, it's a footnote when Patrick Mahomes struggles. But anytime Lamar slips up, it is block A news.
And by the way, he's 500 and Lamar Jackson's 5-1.
Yeah, and like you said, the fastest quarterback to what?
The most wins
under 25 years old.
And he's still got some time because
he's going to crush that thing.
Yeah, he's still, let me see exactly when he turns. Okay, so he January 7th. Right? So January. As many wins as he can stack until January 7th. That's how I don't see anyone beating this record by Lamar Jackson. The run he's had is absolutely unmatched. And as good as Pat Mahomes has, he don't have this one. He don't have this record.
87, I think, is Lamar Jackson's win percentage. 87.5% is, I think, he's got 8 losses in the regular season since he's been in the NFL. That's 2 a year. As it stands right now, he's in his 4th year. Right now, he's averaging 2 losses a year.
And really, the one loss he had this year, the Raiders didn't lead a single second in regulation. So, very well could be 6-0. And I get you could argue the other way and say, well, they could be 5. They could be 4-2. They could be. They had some late game heroics, but those late game heroics were Lamar Jackson.
Right.
So, say what you will, but let us know what you guys think. Are we crazy? Is Jimbo crazier? Should we slow down a little bit? Let us know what you guys think. Are we getting a little bit out on that? Is Jimmy out on a shaky limb? Let us know what you guys think, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.